Hello, beautiful people, and welcome to the Humanize Her podcast. I'm your host, Erica Lockheimer, and I couldn't be more excited to be with you today. This is truly a movement and also a passion project of mine to celebrate women's voices, their stories, their endeavors, their challenges, all of it. We are going to have so much fun together learning about all of them. Let's do this and dive in. In this episode with my co-host Elizabeth, we are going to be in conversation with Stacey Gordon. Now, Stacey Gordon is an expert in the space of diversity, equity, and inclusion in the workspace. She has a toolkit to help people create a more inclusive environment, how they manage, how they hire, how they do everything. She's the CEO of her own company called Rework, and she was the #1 LinkedIn learning instructor on this very subject. So she knows her stuff. We have so much to learn from her.
All that energy she brings to the table. She is an executive advisor as an inclusive workplace consultant, also a keynote speaker and an author of the book Unbiased, talking about unconscious bias, and has workshops about unconscious inclusion. So let's dive into it.
Let's do it. Welcome, Stacey Gordon, to Humanize Her. Oh my gosh, we are so excited. And she gets extra kudos. She flew all the way.
I did. I flew all the way here. All the way from
all
Los
the
Angeles.
way.
I love it.
Yeah, and she immediately said yes, and here we are.
But you get that title now, the first guest to fly in to be recorded.
You earned your wings.
Yes, I will take that.
We'll give you something special for that.
Thank you.
I think to start, our audience would love to kind of learn a bit about you, and so would we. So let's start at the early days
Stacey.
of Stacey, the little Stacey.
Little Stacey.
Yeah, we love hearing about that. So what did you want to be when you grow up? And then what was your journey through schooling, and what did you major in, if you went to school or not? And then you came to where you are today.
Yeah, we have a lot of questions. It's gonna get deep.
Well, it's really interesting because I actually grew up in London. So I am a UK citizen. I'm a dual citizen.
Mm-hmm.
But I was born in London, and my grandmother, I was going to say, is still there, but actually she passed away last year.
Oh, I'm
She's
sorry.
not still there. But grew up in London, and so, schooling is different. Things are different. For a long time, I was like the only Black kid in my school, and I was a smart kid. And I still distinctly remember my mom having to come up to school one day. I remember the man's name too was Mr. Barkley, who took one of my books and threw it in the trash because he was upset with me because I had finished all the little reading packets and the math packets that we had to do. And I was like, well, I don't have anything else to do. I'm going to pull out a book. So I was reading. And he just seemed to be frustrated with the fact that I was like leaps and bounds ahead of all the other kids.
Wow.
So
you should celebrate that.
Yeah,
Not
not
be
like try and
frustrated about
throw it in the
that.
trash can.
Jeez.
We got his name. Thanks.
Yeah. Mr. Barkley, we're coming.
But so I mean, I've just always been an avid learner, and also a person that isn't always going with the crowd. And in fact, I have 3 daughters. I'm kind of skipping ahead here a little bit, but I'll just say this: my middle daughter, who's 20 now, she was complaining yesterday about one of her college classes. And she said, "Mom, I don't know what to write in this stupid thing that I have to do. We all have to discuss and like write our answers." And she's like, "Everyone else has the same answer," but she's like, "I think they're all wrong." And I saw this image of this. It was like one little cartoon image a couple of days ago, and I screenshotted it of a man standing in front of this crowd of hundreds saying, "You're all wrong." And so I just pulled it up on my phone and I showed it to her, and I said, "Now go write what you need to write."
I love that. I love that. I love that.
And I was like, who cares what everybody else has to say?
No.
It's really about doing you. And I think that's always kind of been me, is I'm really at the point where I'm going to do what I need to do. I don't really care what you have to say about it, because this is me. This is how I am. And I think that actually comes from my grandmother, because she was a very larger than life personality. She used to take me everywhere with her. She had like 2-3 jobs when she was younger, but she was my primary, I shouldn't say primary, but she was my babysitter basically, like when my parents were working, because she had odd hours. So I spent a lot of time with my grandmother, and she always had a loud laugh. She was always the person who would stand up for others. And I have to say, I don't think my grandmother ever raised her voice to me, ever said a cross word, She was just always like our biggest supporters. And so I recall also, and only because, again, she told this story a lot, so it's kind of in my brain.
Love
I
it.
don't know if I actually independently remember this. But, on the way to one of her jobs, she used to clean in one of the local libraries. And this white lady, told her that she needed to give up her seat on the bus. And I basically
What?
told the lady, I don't think so. My grandmother works really hard and she's not getting up.
Are you
Good.
kidding me?
So,
Heck
like,
yeah. How old are you?
Yeah.
Like 5.
All right.
But like, when was this? This is like,
Yeah.
That would have been 1981.
this is
Wow,
ridiculous. It's
that's
like,
even,
this is
still
like,
a thing.
it's not like that far away. It's like,
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's still
crazy.
like 40 years, right?
ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, it just, I've always sort of been in that space where I really look at, I don't want to say right and wrong. There are certain things that are right and certain things that are wrong.
Mhm.
But I think there's also different perspectives and different viewpoints. And sometimes, even when we think we are right, we look back later and go, maybe not.
maybe I
Didn't
was
quite have
right.
all the information. I
yeah,
didn't,
maybe I was wrong.
And that humility
Yeah,
is important.
yeah.
When you have that happen, you need to
For
own
sure.
up to it.
For
It's all
sure.
right.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
So I actually came over to the United States, to Brooklyn, when I was
Mm.
probably about 11. And so then I went from being, one of only a handful of Black people in white schools to being, in all Black schools,
Wow.
but with a British accent.
So you still stood out and you
You're
were
still-
unique. I love that.
But,
Yeah,
but what a
so-
sense, how did that feel? I mean, just a sense, I can't even imagine, like a belonging of like, wow.
It was really, it's why I don't have a British accent today, because I spent a lot of time practicing, because I was like, I need to fit in. And I hated that I stood out. Every time I'd open my mouth, people would look at me and go, say something. And I was like, oh.
I just want to hear
It
you
does
Right.
sound beautiful.
And like, well, yeah, now I wish I had it, right? I wish I had the foresight to be like, young Stacey, don't do that.
Yes.
You're really
Yeah.
going to want that accent.
Embrace it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because now if I spoke with that accent, people would actually listen to me.
Yeah. I think a lot of people actually do listen
Yeah,
to you.
yeah.
They do listen, but they actually,
Yeah.
there's a statistic that says if you do things with a British accent, the people, they're much more likely to actually listen, pay attention, and believe
Yeah,
you.
yeah, no, I believe that because for some reason when they talk, I'm like, wow, they just sound smarter.
So
I don't know why. It's like,
sophisticated.
I'm British,
But
yeah,
it's,
I don't know if that's a good accent.
Well, obviously, we'll end up talking about bias, but that's one of those
Yeah.
things. The opposite of that is when you think about people with Southern accents, right? We hear that and we call them dumb hicks, right? Like we immediately think that they're
Assume.
not as smart,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And it's that exact thing, but just in the opposite direction.
Wow.
I
So
love that.
just based
Sometimes
upon.
when I'm drinking, I have a British accent that comes out. Does that mean I'm more sophisticated when
yeah.
I'm drinking?
I do have stories in my 20s. Like we actually fooled the whole bar thinking we were British because it was a lot more fun that way. Anyways, that's another episode that we should probably do, Stacey. Okay,
so
but anyways,
back to-
continue on
back to
middle
you.
school and how you got rid of this British accent.
Yeah. So, I mean, I just practiced, right? I really used to listen to the way that people were talking in New York at the time, and I would copy what their pronunciation. And so that's why now my accent really is just this weird sort of, people go, wait, I think I hear, they're like, I hear an accent. I'm like, really? Which one?
Yeah.
What do you hear?
It's
And
a
they're
blend.
like sometimes people will say, oh yeah, I hear a New York in there, or like it's just certain words or certain things that I'll say. And as I've gotten older too, it's gone away. When I was younger, the angrier I got, the more British I got.
So it does still come out. It does still come out.
A little bit, but not so much these days.
Wow.
That's awesome. So, okay, so your journey, you were young when you came to the United States, and that's a culture shock, culture change, of
Absolutely
course.
was.
And you were still obviously amazing in academics, right? So, how did you progress through your schooling
Yeah.
to get into college? Did you go to college, and what did you want to do?
I
Yeah.
did. I went to college and I really wasn't sure what I wanted to. Well, no, that's a lie. I was sure what I wanted to do. I thought I wanted to be a judge
Oh.
because
Like RBG?
Yeah,
Yes.
RBG right here. I got a gavel right now if you need to just start doing it.
well, again, it was this idea of I want to be a judge because I hate the way that things are happening in
Yeah.
the world, and I naively thought that judges could right wrongs in the system. Like if you're the judge and have the final word, you should be able to,
Right.
Yeah.
fix the system. No, I realized as I started looking more into it that they're really just stuck in this broken legal system that we have. and your hands are tied. And I was like, there is no way in hell that I'm about to go through all of these years of schooling to actually first become an attorney, to then have to wait to be appointed as a judge or elected as a judge, to then sit in a courtroom and still not be able to actually do what needs, what I believe what needs to be done in those moments. So I was like, oh, well, screw this. So I dropped out of law school.
Oh, wow.
There you go. But that's a hard decision
Yeah,
all
that's
in
a huge
itself.
decision.
You think you know what you want, you have that realization. And I think when you are able to make that decision real time and so quickly, it's important because it's moving you towards what you're meant to be doing.
Yeah.
At least you did the research to figure it out and be like, hey, this is not a fit.
Yes,
I just knew it was not for me. So, when I tell people I'm a law school dropout, they always think, oh, you probably couldn't hack it. And it's like, no, bitch.
No.
I had all A's. Okay.
Yeah.
I made the decision to leave.
It was my
That's right.
choice.
That's right. Yeah, it was a decision. I just learned. I didn't realize it. I can imagine how frustrating that would be. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's great.
So I dropped out of law school, ended up working as a paralegal though,
Oh, okay.
for quite a long time. And then one day I saw, because I said to myself, I really want to just be in business for myself, because I realized this was working for people was not the business, right? Like this was not gonna be my life. And so I said, I probably need to go back to school and maybe get a business degree.
Oh.
And then it also makes you think about the power of mentors and how important they are. And I didn't have any. And I realized that instead of dropping out of law school, if somebody had said, what if you spent just one extra year, you could probably get your MBA JD,
Oh.
right? Like that would have been a thing to do. But that was never even something that anyone ever suggested, because I told people, I was like, I'm going to law school, but I'm not really sure that's what I want to do. I think I want to start my own business. So I was like, I'll just use my law degree to start a business. And everyone was like, oh, yeah, well, maybe you should do business school. But it was like, I'm already in law school, right?
Yeah.
Like, so I could have literally just done one more year and
then got
had
it.
both.
Yeah.
Instead, I dropped out of law school, had that debt from, a year and a half of law school. And then it took me about 8 years later before I went back to school and applied for graduate school. But being in LA, I looked at the graduate school options, and at the time I was working, and I was like, well, what am I going to do? And so people probably don't believe me about this, but way back then, I say way back then, but it was almost 20 years ago at this point, which is crazy. It makes me feel really old.
You are far from that, though.
I know. When you said you have a 20-year-old daughter that's your middle, I'm like, no way.
No way. We're doing the math, whatever. Inject your genes, please.
Yeah.
So I looked at USC, I looked at UCLA, because I was like, of course, if I'm going to go to school, I want to go to a really good school. Well, neither one of them had programs that you could do at night. I think USC did, but it was very limited. And I would have to have gotten across town in LA traffic by 6 o'clock.
And you're a paralegal during the day?
Right.
Is that what? Okay.
And I was like, there's no way I'm going to be able to make it. I would
No.
never be successful in this. So I was like, I can't actually get a graduate degree unless I drop out and become a full-time student, which I don't have the money for that, right? So I'm walking to lunch one day, and I cross the street and I look up because there's this big crane on the top of the building next to my building. And I'm like, what are they doing? I'm like, they're putting up a sign. And I was like, what? I'm like, P, there's a P and an E. I was like, what are they putting up there? So I start asking people, do you know what they're putting up? They're like, oh, Pepperdine is opening a campus right here. I was like, really?
That's a
So
sign.
I go on, I was like, go online and I look and I see they have graduate programs right there. And I was like, oh my
That's
gosh,
so
it's a
Perfect.
literal
cool.
sign
Yeah.
that I can go back to school. Because
Well.
all I had to do was walk across the plaza.
Heck yes.
And you're done. Yeah.
So now I had a whole hour between the time I got off work until school where I
What
could
did you
actually
do in that hour?
I studied. I was able to get schoolwork done, go get food, right?
Yeah.
Because between 5 and 6, you're going to be in class till 10 o'clock at night. You're starving.
Yeah.
Yeah. How did you? I mean, how long were you in that phase of like school and work and just like tight schedule like that? That must have been
sucked.
brutal.
It was 2.5 years. It should have been 2 years, but I took a break because at the time I
You
was
deserved it. Sounds like
well, at the time I was married, and my husband literally called me one day. He was so mad at me because I was in our program, and it was like 10:30 at night, and our professor wouldn't let us leave. And he was like, we have to finish this project, so you all have to stay.
Oh wow.
And what were we going to
What are you
do,
gonna do?
right?
Yeah.
So then 11 o'clock comes, and because again, we're in an office building, the security came around and literally kicked us out and was like, you can't stay here. Like, we don't
Yeah.
care where you go, but you have to get the heck out of this building.
Yeah.
So our professor walked us across the street, down the street to a diner.
No way.
Way.
Yeah, a diner, 24 hours. So I
right.
guess he's trying to be resourceful.
So we're
No.
sitting at a diner and my husband calls me. He goes, where are you? And I said, he said, why aren't you home?
You're
And I was
like,
like,
"I'm
I
at
called
Denny's."
you. I told you that I have to work. He's like,
I don't know. It sounds sus, Stacey.
right. He's like, I'm telling you. He goes, but it sounds like there's a lot of laughing and everything going on in the background. He's like, what are you doing? I was like, I'm sitting in a diner. I was like, we're hungry. I was like, my professor made it like literally, we cannot leave. And he was like, whatever, and hung up on me.
You're like, oh,
So there wasn't like cell phones, didn't have cell phones take pictures or anything like that?
No, I didn't think it had the cell phone, the function for pictures back then, right? So it was like, okay, so I'm sitting there with my group, by the way.
Yeah.
They're looking at me like, so what was that about? I was like, oh, my husband just hung up on me. It's fine.
yeah.
What am I going to
Hopefully
do,
I'll
right?
have a husband when I get home. And
Right, I'm like, what am I going to do? And but that was the thing, that back then we were all struggling with like what was going on. My kids were like 5 and 6 or something at the time. So he
wow.
was just like, I'm at home having to deal with the children.
Yeah.
And so it just reminds me too, like being a woman and dealing with these things as I got, more into my career and I would travel. Even my own mom would ask me, she goes, I just don't understand how your husband puts up with you.
what?
I'm sorry. Put up with me.
Yeah.
She's like, all this traveling that you do. She goes, I would be, it's just you leave him with the children. I was like, I leave him with the children.
He decided to have these kids too, last I heard.
Right. I was like, first of all, it's like once a month, if that. Second of all, they're his children.
Yeah.
Third
Oh
of
my
all,
gosh.
when he leaves and goes somewhere, nobody asks him a gosh darn thing about how I feel about it.
It's just expected and you're taking care of it and there's no question asked.
Right.
Yeah.
But then when I am traveling, people would say to me, so who watches the children when you're gone?
Yeah. Yeah.
Their father.
Yeah.
The other person who helped to create them.
Exactly.
I have a friend that he jokes. It's a joke. So like, let's clear that up right away. But he jokes and goes, yeah, I can't make it because I got to babysit my kids. I'm like,
not
babysitting your own
No,
kids.
no,
He's like,
no, it does
I
not
know.
work
We're just
that way.
kidding.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, but it's just funny because that's the perception.
It's the norm. And that's why there's all this pressure of like choosing career or your kids or trying to do it all. The world also was not, we'll get on that soapbox,
So
but the world was
biased,
created by men, hours created by, I mean, it's just, it's not a reality of
The
like
9
how it
to
is.
5
Yeah.
job,
And having
all
kids
that
and all this other stuff.
Yeah. So, so I did finish my degree, but I did take, after that semester, I was tired because I was literally in school like every weekend, studying in the library, in study groups, in project groups. And I was like, Christmas is coming. I was like, there's no way I can do another semester like this where I don't have time to go to the store and buy gifts and put up decorations. So I took the semester off. So that's why I ended up finishing in 2.5 years instead of 2.
No, I think it was brilliant. Yeah. And then what matters like half that period of time.
Yeah.
Because you have to prioritize yourself and your mental health and your well-being. You need to be getting sleep. You have to have a life outside of just school, just work.
Right.
You're a mom, you're a wife, you're a friend,
I took 7 years to graduate from college as first gen. I didn't do any graduate school. I was working the whole time. So don't even worry about that. Not a problem.
Yeah. But that's, so I just knew I wanted to go and start a business. And so I did, like right after that, I pretty much started consulting on the side, doing my business and just kind of doing, I won't say odd jobs, but different types of jobs because I wanted to see, well, what makes sense. So I actually worked for, it was like what was that, Bain consultant for about 9 months as his technically HR person, but just kind of looking at how he ran his consulting business and did a lot for him. I went into real estate. I went into financial services. I've been in a lot of different industries, and because I also get bored really easily. So if like I'm the kind of person like as an employee, I would come in. They tell me what I need to do. And I'm like, okay, good. I got that done. And now what? Because I fixed everything. I've cleaned everything up. I've started a bunch of new things and I'm bored. And then I get told, stay in your lane.
Oh, wow.
Right?
Sounds like the same thing when you were a young student where they threw away, you did all the homework and did all the books. And you wanted to get your own. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's why I love being in business because it affords me the opportunity to try different things, to, stick my finger in all the different pies.
So now you have your own business. When did that start?
So technically, like I said, after I finished my degree, I started the Gordon Group.
The Gordon Group. Okay.
Yes, because I just said that was such a original name, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
so original.
Totally. It has a nice sound to it, though.
Yeah.
Sounds prestigious.
Yeah.
in a
I'm
way.
sold.
Sophisticated. If you had the accent, then you would have taken
Oh,
it.
yeah.
Right? That's what it was missing. But I was working as an external recruiter, and so
So that's what the Gordon Group's purpose
the
was.
main
Got it.
purpose was recruitment. I was doing third-party recruitment and was also working with a number of organizations too. I was sitting on so many different boards. I was sitting on the National Sales Network Board, National Association of Women MBAs, National Association of African Americans in Human Resources. Because you're recruiting, you need to know as many people as possible.
Totally.
So I was out doing that for quite a while, and then in 2016. I was having a conversation with somebody about recruitment and just how frustrated I was with the system. And I was like, we need to rework everything. Like we need to rework training and advancement and leadership and recruitment. And we just need to rework work. And I was like, oh, that's a great name for the business. And so
Oh my gosh.
It is.
I love
It's a
it.
fantastic
totally,
name.
Yeah.
It makes you think like, wait, yeah. Okay.
We got to redo stuff here. Everything's like broken.
yeah. So that was
Wow.
when I switched it in 2016 and been going strong ever since.
So it was the Gordon Group, and then you just changed the name and rebranded. So it's still essentially the same type of work you were doing.
Well, it sounds like it's an
But
expansion.
more.
Yeah, but an
But more.
expansion of
So
what. Yeah.
what really happened was I was working with a particular client. And, sorry if you've listened to me before and have heard this story, but it's interesting. And for most people, it'd be new to you.
It's all new to us.
It's new.
It's always new. That's one thing I did learn. It's don't be afraid to repeat, because the odds are no one's heard it.
You have a different audience every time.
Every time.
Yeah.
Yeah, go for it. We're all fresh ears.
Yeah.
Mm.
But I was working with this company. It was actually a Latino mostly company, which was kind of interesting. And but the CEO was the one, you as a third-party recruiter, you go in, you go, who's the person that's going to make the decisions? Who else do I need to talk to? Want to make sure I know, blah, 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 right? So I do all of that. And I find a person, they absolutely love him. They're like, we're going to hire him. I'm going to send you an offer letter. You should get it within the next 24 hours. So 24 hours comes and goes. I don't have an offer letter. So then I'm like, okay, well, maybe he got busy. He's the CEO, right? So I'll wait. So 48 hours, 72 hours. I was like, okay, let me call. Where's my offer letter? Let me, I'm gonna get back to you. What do you mean you're gonna get back to me?
What?
Yeah.
Right? So then he gets back to me and says, oh, well, we have, the board of directors would like to interview the candidate. I'm sorry, what?
What?
Let me go back to our agreement. Let's see. Nowhere in here is anything about the board of directors needing to interview the candidate, right?
Yeah.
And he's like, it's just a formality. Well, then why do we need to do it?
Do it. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, can we just get this offer letter? But I was like, you know what? Fine. So candidate goes out, does the interview, and what I came to find was the two members of the board of directors who really wanted to meet with this candidate were very upset because apparently he didn't have his college degree. But we knew this in advance, right? And this wasn't a thing. He said we don't need a college degree, and he was literally 2 units away from his college degree.
Yeah, and who gives a
And
shit?
And I had told him, I was like, can you just go back and finish the damn thing? Like, for God's sake. You were so close. Just finish it, you know?
My husband doesn't have a college degree at all. Yeah.
Yeah, but I'm like, when you're that close, I'm like, just finish it, right? Just get it done. But anyway, so he, goes through this whole thing, and they start asking all these questions. Has he made this kind of money before? We need to see his W-4s. We need all proof, all these different things. And I was like,
a lot of hoops.
is this because he's Black?
You asked him?
What is the issue here, right?
Yeah.
Like, what is going on? And they're like, no. It's just, whatever. So they eventually did the offer. He eventually got the job. But what I got out of that was it took me an extra 2.5 weeks to get him hired, right?
Yeah.
And for what?
Right. And if I were a different recruiter, what would I do? Because I only get paid when you finally give me an offer letter and then pay him, right? So that means that it's taking longer for me to get paid. So the first thing I'm going to do is go back to my number 2 candidate and go, hey, interested in this job?
You're
Get in
done.
here,
And then what
right?
did you just create?
Right.
Yeah.
So when you think about from a recruitment standpoint, especially when you are incentivizing with commissions and things like that, the bias that's in there, it's baked in. And there's no incentive for a recruiter to do the, quote unquote, right thing.
Right thing, yeah.
Right? was like, I need to get paid.
Mhm.
I have kids I need to feed. I have a house,
Mhm.
note to pay and all of that.
Yep.
So at that point, that stuff's going to go out the window. And so that is what made me realize, I said, no, this is some bull because that should not have happened.
Yep.
This conversation shouldn't have happened. These thoughts shouldn't even have occurred.
Nope. Yeah.
And even if they did, you shouldn't have voiced them.
Yeah.
No.
You shouldn't have brought that BS to me,
No.
right? Like none of that. So that's what made me really realize that where the work was needed is in the corporate leaders
Yeah.
and in that corporate function, not on the candidate side.
Yeah.
Right.
The organization needs to change.
Right.
Right.
So that's where I kind of morphed into, really the work that I do now. And so what I actually did was I took a little mini hiatus from my business for 9 months, went to one of the largest banks in the world, got a job as a DEI project manager.
Oh, wow.
And because I wanted to see, I was like, well, because again, we know the corporate BS. Well, you haven't actually worked as a corporate recruiter before
Mm-hmm.
and you don't know.
You need X years of
Mm,
experience
right.
to be considered. Yeah.
And that's actually why I started working as a third-party recruiter. Because even
Yeah.
though I had a Rolodex full of
Mhm.
all of these people who kept telling me how great I was a recruiter and they loved my work and blah, 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 blah. When I went to go get hired, they were like, oh, but you haven't actually had the title of recruiter. I really can't bring you in. I was like, are you
Jeez.
kidding me? So
Yeah.
that's what actually forced me to start
Yeah.
my business.
Yeah.
Because I was like, I want to do this. I know I can do it. And I'm not waiting on you to give me a yes.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I'm just going to make my own.
Yeah. Take it into your own hands.
Totally.
Wow. And there's two things that you're bringing up is not only making it a horrible candidate experience and then having a ripple effect,
Right.
but like also there's problems with organizations of just like finding that talent. And here you are giving that gift and they're still, screwing it up basically.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. And it's, so what, I guess, how now with Rework, what have you seen where you've transformed and you've gone into these corporations and been like, hey, this is where you're at. And now this is what kind of impact and results have you seen to be able to change that? Because it's so nested in the culture.
It is so
and then you think about
nested.
who's in the current company. It's like, it's people.
Right. And so that's really what I'm finding. Like I thought I was going to be able to go in. I kind of had the Pollyanna rose-colored glasses on. And I was like, Stacey, you're going to be able to go in there and you're going to be able to make these changes.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And then I realized, it's like, yeah, if it hasn't changed in 20, 30, 50 years, how are you, this one person, going to make this change? And there's been days when I've just been wanting to give up because I'm like, what's the point?
Yeah.
But I recognize that what we actually are trying to change are the individuals. And so the examples that come from that are like sometimes you go into a company and you see that it is jacked up in there.
Mhm.
And you provide the information and you see the resistance. And then you just have to go, all right, I'm just going to pray for you. And
Oh,
Right,
you know,
left
a couple
to do
Hail
is
Marys,
pray.
yeah.
right? And I'm just going to
Lord
back up and
Jesus.
make my exit. 'Cause
Yeah.
what I'm not going to do is let you bring me into your crazy.
Yeah. Good.
Yeah.
Good.
There's
So-
no helping you.
Yeah.
Right. Like sometimes there is that. And that makes
Mhm.
me sad because but even in that, what I will see is the people who really are trying, they end up exiting.
Mhm.
So
Yeah,
what
yeah.
really is sad is they will come to me after I've come into an organization, I've done a session, I've led,
Yeah.
meetings, and they'll say, Stacey, can we have a private conversation? And in the back of my head, I'm always like, oh, here we go. Because I know
Yeah.
what they're going to
Yeah.
say.
Yeah.
They're going to be like, do you think I should quit my job?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Am I in the wrong place? And I'm like, I can't answer that for you.
Yeah.
But I kind of put a whole bunch of data in front of you. I'll let you have
Right.
this
I'm like,
answer.
all you can do is take
Yeah.
the information that's in front of you, right? And it's like,
Yeah.
I can't answer that for you. However, if here are some of the things that you were looking for and you don't see that in your current organization, then you've got to figure out how you can
Yeah.
help to influence and change it, or
Or
you are going to have to change it. So I
Find a
love that
place fits.
Yeah. Or
phrase
leave.
that
Sorry.
we have to
Right.
change the people or you have to change the people.
Yeah. Yeah.
Change the people
So-
within.
Yeah,
or
I
change
love
the people
that.
You're even
I
working
love that.
with.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That took me a
so-
little while, but I like it.
It takes you a minute. You're
And
like,
I'm
wait.
Oh yeah,
You're
change
good
the
with the
people.
play on
I like that. Or
words,
change
yeah.
the people.
Yeah.
Yeah, like
Rework
literally
work,
swap 'em
change
in,
the people or
swap 'em
change
out.
the people.
Yeah,
We're gonna get
yeah.
more.
That's a
Yeah.
good one.
So my role is to come in and to change the people.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
If I can't change the people or the people don't want to be changed, then it's up to the leadership that is there to decide
Yeah.
we're going to change the people and get those folks out
Mm-hmm.
and make room for people who actually want to come in and be part of the value system that we
How much have you
Yeah.
seen? What side of the change have you seen more of? Or
it really depends. I mean, and that's where and that's what keeps me doing this work. And because as I said, I get bored easily,
Mhm.
but you can never tell. I will go into an organization sometimes and go, oh, here we go. It's going to be the same BS. but you know what? Let's try. And
Yeah.
then they blow me away.
Mhm.
And then sometimes they come in, they say all the right things. And then there's this one person that is a roadblock to everything. And they are just steamrolling everything and putting a complete halt. And you're just like, wow, I had such high hopes for what we could do
Yeah.
here. And this one person has just effed it all up.
Mhm. Oh, so
Jeez.
frustrating.
They're like a bowling ball.
Yeah.
It's just like,
But I'm sure when you have those ones that blow you away and exceed your expectations, it's probably like seeing your baby grow up, like, oh, yay.
Well, you did that.
They
You
got
did
to
that.
the next level.
oh, well, and then I think what's great about that is the ripple effect. So even in places where I want to come in and I want to see all this change, it's like, okay, maybe I didn't see as much change as I expected. But these two people
Yeah.
changed. And not only did they change, but then they've made change in their department. And then they might have left that company, but then they'll contact me later and say, I'm over at this company and I'm also doing this now
Yes.
here.
Yes.
And then these people are doing this here. And I've got people calling me and asking me about the session that I did at my old job. And they're asking for that information. And there's those ripple effects that are happening. And so another thing that I love to say, which I think is I think it's a Greek adverb or something, proverb. Adverb. That's vocabulary.
Hey,
I'm
you
sold
know more
either
than
one.
me. I'm all pronoun. What?
I know. I'm like, it's okay. I wouldn't
We'll
notice the
figure it
difference.
out.
But go ahead.
We're doing ad libs over here.
Yeah.
But it's like that we plant seeds of trees we may never see. And so that is what keeps me going in this work, is that I realize that, I'm a seed planter. Right?
Yeah.
I'm coming out and we're going to plant the seeds. And I may die before I can ever sit under the shade
Aw,
of this tree.
aw.
But it's growing.
It's growing, and you started it, and it will foster. It will foster.
So sometimes I tell people to think of me as the grain of sand in their shoe.
Okay.
I know. I guess that's the frustrating part, is the journey. It's a marathon, not a sprint. It's so slow, and it's like you said, you want to give up because you're like, you don't see that momentum, but you continue to fight because it's worth those one or two things. Or
And as you
Yeah.
make progress, it's exciting, but then you take a step back and see the big picture, and it's like, that was just a baby
Well, that's what I was going to
step
say. When
towards
you can do a look back, right,
Yeah.
later, it's similar to we talk about how social change, right, how things change over time.
yeah,
And when we think about just the shift that has to happen. And that's pretty much what we're doing, right, in this work, is affecting shifts. And so I look at the example of tattoos, right?
yeah.
When I was first getting a job, you could not have a tattoo and
I
get a
just got.
respectable.
Yeah, I covered up a little bit, but I got
got
two right
that
here.
at my wedding.
I got that at our wedding.
I've actually been thinking about getting one.
All
I
right,
have.
let's do it.
But it's like, back in the day, oh my
No,
goodness,
no,
there's no way.
Yeah.
You couldn't get a job in a bank. You couldn't get there were so many
No.
places you could not get
You
hired.
don't have
right?
piercings in your
Right. You couldn't have
fingers.
piercings. You
Yeah,
couldn't
yeah.
have different colored hair. Like,
Yeah.
you're sitting here with blue hair. I got here red hair.
Yeah.
Like these were
I know. I
not
feel out of
things-
place. I need to do some.
We should be ourselves. That's how you express your personality.
Right,
Yeah.
but you were not allowed to do that. And so I think that, and not only were you not allowed, but there was this, you were thought of as subversive,
Yeah.
right? If you had a tattoo, it was, you aren't worthy. You're a degenerate, right? You are on the outskirts of
Yeah.
society.
Yeah. Yeah.
Whereas now everyone has tattoos. Nobody
Yeah,
cares,
nobody
right?
cares.
But that took, 30 years to shift.
True.
So we look at those shifts. I also use the example a lot of times of business casual wear. Again, I was
yeah.
at the conference. I was telling you, I was at a conference on Tuesday for HR individuals, and I was joking with them. I said, raise your hand if you were one of the people that first created Casual Friday guidelines, because I remember when Casual
Yeah.
Fridays became a thing,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And I said, for the people that sit here, I said, what happened to those guidelines? Where are they?
Mm-hmm.
Right? They're in the trash somewhere.
Yeah. Exactly.
But back then,
I remember
we
Casual
thought that was
Fridays.
so important.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was like, what are the things that we do now
Yeah.
that 20, 30 years from now, someone's going to look back and laugh at you?
Yeah. You
Yeah.
stupid.
And saying, like, that really wasn't that big of a deal, right? It really wasn't that important.
It is so true.
And like, that's some of the things that we are fighting right now, where it's like, you really got to think about this and say,
Yeah.
is this vital, or should we be spending our
Spend time.
time in this other area?
Oh my gosh. Okay. I'm holding on to those shifts, but they're not moving fast
And
enough.
there's so much of it
Yeah.
too. I mean, even like work from home policies. That's a big one
Yeah.
right now. How does that look? And then we're
Control your life.
changing, trying
Yeah.
to figure it out. But you should be able to work in the way that works best for you.
Yeah,
Right?
flexibility. And you have kids, you have taking care of elderly parents. I mean, you got life going on. It's like, oh no, corporate structure every day. I'm so done.
Yeah.
So done. Yeah.
Like we
So
talked
done with
about the
that.
9 to 5, and men kind of made that schedule
Yeah.
and not taking into consideration childcare and
All the other
pickups and
things.
drop-offs at
Well, right.
school. And
It's systemic,
Yeah.
right?
It's
and
super
so
systemic.
if you remember, or I shouldn't remember, but there's Dr. Claudia Golden, I believe is her last name. She just won. She's the first woman, I believe, to have won the oh my gosh, Nobel Peace Prize in economics.
Nice.
And so she has a lot of work around the economy of flexible work.
Oh.
And that if we were allowed to have more flex work, the pay equity gap would actually reduce.
I believe that. Yeah.
Because the jobs where we have the biggest pay gaps are the jobs that are more rigid, or not even so much more rigid, but that have more of a demand on your time.
Yeah.
So for example, being an on-call doctor,
Yeah.
right? Being a lawyer, being in any of those areas where you're expected to show up at any time, right?
Yeah.
Most women don't have that kind
No.
of flexibility in their schedule.
Yep.
So they can't get into those positions. So it makes it much more difficult for them to be able to be in those higher paying roles.
Right.
So when we are able to embrace flexibility in our work schedule, that actually allows for an evening of the playing field and for more women to be able to get into those higher paying positions.
That's an excellent point. I mean, that's the reason. When are we going to get like really
So
pissed off?
fired up. Yeah.
I'm so mad. Okay, let's get a little more mad. So, let's just do this. We want to. You said you had the angry side, and the British accent comes in on that. So maybe we'll hear a little
We might
bit.
hear it.
Yeah. No, but like, okay, so this we talked about remote work and flexibility with all the layoffs that are happening, and especially really in the tech world, and having all these DEI efforts. I've been part of it. I started Women in Tech and all those things at LinkedIn, and it's still going, which is great. But if I see one more headline that we are defunding this program for diversity, and then we're doing this over here because we're shifting, it feels, if anything, you talk about the shift, I'm irritated it's going backwards. And so it's like all that work that we've done, all the work that you've done, it's like how are we going in reverse here?
I don't think we're going in reverse. I think what's happening is we're getting louder. So this is a terrible example of this, but I'm going to use it anyway.
Ready for it.
Yep.
So again, I have young kids. Well, I had young kids.
Yeah.
My youngest is now 13. But when my two oldest were like 8 and 9 years old, I literally lived across the street from a park. And I let them go to the park by themselves. All they had to do was walk to the corner. Like literally I could, in my backyard, I could watch them stand at the corner, press the button for the walk, right? They could walk across the street and they were in the park. And I happened to be on the phone with my mother. And I was talking to her and saying, oh, she's like, what are you doing? Oh, I'm watching the kids at the park. She goes, you're at the park? You don't sound like you're at the park. I was like, oh, I'm not at the park. I said, the girls are at the park. What? You let my grandchildren go to the park? What are you right? So she's the whole thing. She goes, if I have to get on a plane and come get my grandchildren. I mean, she just like went off.
Wow.
Started talking about the pedophiles, right? That are out there. And I said, Mom, we don't have more pedophiles now. I said, the difference is that now we know about them. Right? We didn't have Amber Alerts back in the day.
True.
I wasn't able to pull up an app and look at all the little red dots and see all my neighbors and see that they were pedophiles.
Yeah.
We just didn't know. We were ignorant of it.
Ignorant.
then.
That's true.
Ignorance
it's
is bliss.
But
Right.
it's
So
always
it's
been
like,
there.
What has changed
True.
is just our perception of it.
Yeah.
And it's the same for DEI right now. What has changed is there's more talking about it. Back before, it was shut up. Be happy you have a job. Just be quiet. Sit in the corner. Don't talk too much. Don't talk too loud. Do your job and be happy that you're getting a bonus this year, right? And we did that when we were quiet. And now we're like, F this.
Yeah.
No, we will not be quiet. We will not at all. I mean, look at the students out there in at UCLA and USC and around the world who are protesting.
Yeah.
Thank you, students. We
Yes.
appreciate you. Right? They are making noise.
Yeah.
And when we are in a place where what's happening is censorship is coming back into play. Like, we don't want you to be educated about this. We don't want you to have conversations about it, because the more you're educated and the more you have conversations about it, the more we're going to innovate and we're going to get together and collaborate and we're going to come up with solutions that you might not like. So they were trying to nip that in the bud. So all of this is because we have been loud and we're getting louder. There's a scrambling and a fear to be like, no, we got to tamp that down. We have to stop it.
Wow.
So I really think that's what's happening, because I always tell people, like, look, the KKK isn't knocking on my door and asking me to provide them with any kind of education, right? That hasn't changed.
Yeah.
The people that want the work that I do have always wanted the work. And they will
Yeah.
continue to want the work.
Yeah.
So you can ban things all you want, but we're going to find a way, right? And when you think about, again, going back to our little curve of being subversive, if you want to think of DEI at this point of being subversive, fine.
Yeah.
Because guess what then? 20 years from now, it's going to be the norm.
Yeah.
Because based on the culture shift.
Yeah, that's
So-
true. It shouldn't be a topic that we have to talk about, to be honest.
Right. So it's like, I'm not scared of you.
Yeah. That is awesome. So, okay, let's educate us a little bit. I noticed you have like a cool shirt on. Yeah.
I want one, by the way.
I want one, by the way.
Can
Yeah.
I buy one?
Yeah.
Do you have a merch store or something?
You know what is so funny that you say that? So just today on the way here, I was thinking, I really need to put up a t-shirt merch store, because I was like,
Yeah.
all these sayings, all these things that are out here that I think is so important. I'm like, I'm gonna put them on some shirts and
Yeah.
get a merch store started.
Yeah.
So you heard it here first.
First,
It's
yay,
coming.
yay,
It's coming
and that's the
soon.
whole point. Everybody has to buy too, because we have to invest in, so you can keep on doing the amazing work. So let's talk about unconscious bias.
Yeah. So
You
this is
were-
actually my t-shirt. It says Unbiased. That is the name of my book.
Unbiased.
And I actually brought you.
Oh,
I
let's
brought
get ready
you.
for this. We
Yes.
love gifts.
So I brought you my book in a little box here.
Rework.
Oh,
Pulled
rework,
together.
rework, work. We like it. I love it.
QR code.
Oh,
Zoom in, get it.
Oh yeah, we got this. You thought of everything.
Super smart.
Okay. All right.
Yes.
Let's open this up. Oh, thank you for being committed to unconscious inclusion. Ooh, that's unbiased. I like
Can
that.
we read this?
Yeah, that is
Absolutely.
good. Yeah.
Unbiased. This is her book. So,
Yeah.
addressing unconscious bias at work helps you understand concepts of workplace diversity, equity, and inclusion, shows you how to identify bias, and provides you with the tools for actively removing barriers and ensuring equity throughout your organization. Written by
Stacey
Stacey Gordon,
Gordon.
CEO of Rework, a company on a mission to reduce bias in global talent acquisition and management. This real-world handbook offers step-by-step guidance on creating workplace cultures where employees feel they belong.
This is cool.
This is
Congratulations.
This is awesome.
This is
And
amazing.
the colors are just
Yeah, like yeah.
I love the colors. You can see it's in
Yeah,
my
I mean,
hair.
you're like
it's on
the-
my nails.
Yeah, it's on your.
Love
You
it.
are colored, color coordinated everywhere.
You live and breathe this work. And
Oh
you
my
can
gosh.
tell.
I
All
do
right,
tell.
you're gonna have to sign the book, and then we're gonna
I
add it to
will.
all my other
I will
amazing
sign
books.
it.
This is amazing. So, when did you write this, and how long? And tell us about what's in this book. And can't wait to read it. And also, do you have audio? We have a lot of questions.
yes.
In your voice, audio.
It is not audio in my voice.
We
but
need you
it-
in our ears constantly.
But there is an Audible version. There is
Okay.
a Kindle version, so it's easy for you to go online
Okay.
and purchase it. It actually published in 2021, and
Congrats.
I spent, again, I had to get away from my kids in order to write. So I would go to a hotel on the weekends and write so that I could focus. Because
You
otherwise,
did
I
the
would just
work.
get up and I'd be doing stuff for the kids. I'd be cooking. I'd be cleaning the bathroom because
Yeah.
I'd be procrastinating.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was like, I need to
I
write
get
this
that.
Yeah.
book.
Wow.
Yeah.
So the book is actually based on our culture roadmap at Rework. And we have a framework that really looks at, it's like the intersection of awareness, alignment, action, and advocacy
Ugh, love it.
within our DEI framework, which is disrupt, evolve, and innovate.
Ooh,
you did a play
You
on
just
it.
did a. I love it.
Yeah,
Jeez.
diversity, equity, and inclusion.
Yeah.
But disruption,
Evolution,
evolution,
and innovation.
and innovation.
I
So
That
I like
is
to
good.
say that we do.
It's almost like we
DE
need an equal equation. You know,
You're so
this
good
equals
at
this.
that with
Yeah,
the
that is
words
good.
and the plays on
Yeah.
words.
No, I
We
like to
take
say that we do
Yeah.
DEI differently, and
Yeah.
that's how we do it, is by disrupting, evolving, and
And
innovating.
innovating.
And each of those steps has to happen in order for you to really embrace DEI and be able to embed it into the DNA of your company. So most people want to jump straight into action,
Mm.
which is the third step. And I think that is why most of the work has been performative,
Mm.
because when you are performing an action and you don't know why, and
Yeah.
you don't know what it's for, and you really don't have any, there's no skin in the game, you have no understanding of what you're doing, it's going to be performative. So
True.
without first having some self-awareness, which is why we start with awareness, that has to be first and foremost. And so starting there is where you start with unconscious bias, right? Understanding what unconscious bias is,
What is
understanding
it
how
for
it
other
shows
people? I
up.
mean, I know. I think a lot
There,
of people don't
I
know.
mean, there's a LinkedIn learning course on what it is, Erica.
I mean, you could, yes,
the
that's true.
Yeah, same year that this book came out,
What a year.
2021, you were the number one course on LinkedIn learning for
Yes.
unconscious bias.
So the interesting thing about that is the course was actually released, I want to say in 2017 or 2018 maybe.
So it's a different type of tool compared to the book, or
It's a little different,
Okay.
yes. But the course didn't get popular until 2021 because of everything that was happening after George Floyd's murder.
Yep.
And everyone all of a sudden apparently had awareness, right?
Yeah.
Like, the awareness is what
Yeah.
was important.
Because we were being loud about it.
Yes.
Yep.
And so once you have the awareness, then we need to get to that next step, which is alignment or accountability.
Wow.
So the reason that we are today in this place of declining interest is because no one bothered to do the next step, right?
Wow.
We haven't become accountable.
Yeah.
Right? We have not aligned our values to anything related to
Yeah.
DEI within our workplaces. So of course,
Yeah.
it's just, and we just keep going in this cycle of constantly like, oh, awareness, we need to talk about this. And then it goes away. And then think, oh, wait, we need to talk about this. Did we talk about that last year?
Yeah. What are you doing?
Yeah.
What is the impact? How's this continuity so it's sustainable and it keeps moving forward and you see progress?
Right. Yes.
We need to get to a
Frustrating.
point where it's ingrained in our everyday.
So the book has a lot of
We
examples.
make this mandatory for every single organization.
I would absolutely love it. I mean, it's part of the reason I think that unconscious bias, the course on LinkedIn, it became such a big thing because so many companies did make it mandatory. And they were like, you need
Yeah,
to watch this.
That's true.
And they've included it in onboarding. They include it in so many different aspects. And many of my clients come to me because they say, we watched your course and it was so good. And the way that you tackled the topic was really helpful. And, you know, I do it in such a way that people can embrace the information, you know? So like I just a couple of weeks ago was at another California HR organization for their conference. And so I saw some of the people at this other conference I was at, and they were coming up to me and going, oh my gosh, your session was so good. Like, I remember, I got this, like, I'm working on this. I remember
once you
talked about.
once you know, like you can't undo all that information. I could tell you for LinkedIn, when the time I was working at LinkedIn, we did unconscious bias training and everything.
Yeah.
You were the requirement there.
Yes.
And it made a difference. Like people
does make
started having the
sense.
conversations because you have to be educated to then do those next steps. If you don't understand the why or the what it is, actually, how would you? I mean, you have a whole book on this, but what tidbit can you share of like what does unconscious bias mean? Like the very, I guess a Cliff Note version. So, and then a teaser. Let's do it as a teaser.
So I would say, you know, unconscious bias, everyone thinks they know what it is, right? And it's just our way, such a shortcut for us to categorize people because we want to do things quickly. We want to be efficient. I want to be able to look at you, see your blue hair, and I want to immediately go, fun girl, right? Or whatever it is I want to say, right? Like there's things that you immediately just make assumptions about based upon how somebody looks, right? Based upon how big is the ring on their finger, right? How much money do I think they make? I've had people back when I was recruiting who said, I didn't get a job because one of the interviewers looked at the engagement ring on my finger and told me that I didn't need this job. Because clearly I made enough money in my household.
No, I just like flashy things.
Or maybe your husband saved up for years to get you that.
Maybe it's a
I don't
family
know your
heirloom.
story.
It's the
you don't
last
even
thing
know.
that they have. Like, you just don't know. So it's those kinds of things that we are then taking, information that we are taking in visually, and sometimes, you know, from an audio standpoint, and we are then making assumptions about it. And then we are impacting people's lives based on it. And so my goal, I would say, look, my goal is to disrupt bias, disrupt that process that goes from the thought that we have to the action that we take.
Yeah.
I'm not going to judge you and shame you for having the thought because that's just what's going to happen.
It's ingrained. It's so
human nature.
Yeah.
But what my goal is to be the disruptor of the thought becoming an action. Like, what is the action that you're going to take based on that thought? And I need you to stop and go, wait, was I really about to say that to this person?
Yeah.
Was I really about to do that, make this decision? let me make sure that I'm making that decision based on facts, based on, standard processes. And so that is my goal when it comes to, that process. So in the book, there's some examples of ways to do that. And it's more of, the whole book itself is more of an awareness starter for just starting to understand what are some of the things that we need to be paying attention to. And so for many people, again, we think we know everything. But what I have found is people will come to my sessions and I will ask, I'll do a survey and say, well, how well or how knowledgeable are you in these areas? And it's like 4s, 5s, 4s, 5s. I do my session and then I ask the question again and the number goes down.
Yeah.
Because then they realize like, oh, I thought I knew and I actually don't. Right.
Yeah, wow.
So that, at first when I saw that, I was like, oh my gosh, people are getting stupider after my sessions.
No, they actually got smarter and realized they don't know much.
Right. Then I realized I was like,
awareness,
no.
awareness.
Right.
They have awareness.
Yeah.
Wow.
Your
that is,
metric should be the awareness piece.
yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. Oh my gosh. Now I'm like, I think I know a lot of stuff. I think I need to do this.
Read the book.
I'm going to read the book and we're going to have a session.
I'm
Wow.
gonna borrow it.
Yeah.
Just so you know.
Yeah. No, it's
I will
going to be
send you
good.
one.
Yeah. Or you know what? We better buy
Thank you.
one.
I was gonna say, yeah,
We gotta
I'll
buy
buy
one.
one.
I'll buy one. It's
I'm gonna buy
about
your book.
investing.
I'm not gonna
Exactly.
borrow yours.
I
I'm
know.
gonna buy
you're
yours.
gonna buy
I gotta
yours.
say, I was in a session one time and I was I asked a question. I said, the first 3 people that get this right, I'm going to send them a copy of my book. And after the session, I had this Black woman walk up to me and she goes, I love what you talked about. And she's like, I just want you to know, I don't want you to send me a book. She's like, I'm buying your book because I
That's
want to
right.
be able to promote and support you.
Support
And I'm
you.
like,
That's right. Yeah.
And the work you're
That's
doing.
right. No,
Absolutely.
that's the point. It's like,
Yeah,
how
that's
else?
what it's
What are you going to
about.
self-fund for the rest of your life? No, you
Yep.
got to be smart businesswoman and make some money
well,
doing all
God
this
knows I
stuff.
can't rely on funding in this country because what is it? Less than 1% of women that get it. So
Yeah, no, the numbers are absolutely horrible. I was just looking at them again, and it's just like, it's so frustrating that it's not changing. It's like, they're not, number one, like also tapping women to like invest. They're not even tapped to like invest in their money, let alone like, hey, I want to do a startup. It's like, they're not getting the funds.
Yeah.
It's like, bias. You have a lot of work to do. If you think about every corporation, every fund, okay, we have to be on this mission to help in any way we can.
And
which
we're all
means,
in it together. And
Yeah.
that's why we're
Yeah.
elevating these stories and the work that
That's
you're
right.
doing and how it all
And we gotta get
collides and
educated.
coincides.
Yep.
It's just, we have a lot to do, but
Yeah.
we can do it.
one of
Yeah.
my T-shirts is going to have the saying, which is well-behaved women seldom make history.
love
I
that.
forgot who said it.
I
love
do know
that
that
quote.
quote though, but I'm trying to remember who said it
And
too.
I have it as a bumper sticker on my
Oh.
car. And it's really funny
yeah.
because sometimes I'm driving down the freeway and
Yeah.
people will honk and go, love your steps.
Okay, all right. We need bumper stickers. We need everything. We need marching flags.
disruptors, you
We need
know?
hats. We need to just like go out all in style.
The disruptors are the ones who
yeah.
make history. And
Yeah.
that's
Yeah,
what it's-
that's
yeah.
why you are one of the people. We're like, we got to talk to Stacey. She's gonna know how to do this. Do
Yeah.
it right.
Totally.
That is so great.
Totally. Well, thank you for this. This
Thank
is
you.
awesome.
It's so amazing.
Amazing journey, and you're obviously still in it, on it. You're living and breathing it, as we talked about. So for you, what would be a goal that's coming up next, or something big that's maybe coming up that you're excited about?
So what is actually big is, and you sort of mentioned it, but didn't realize it. Inside the box, right? It says committed to your journey to unconscious inclusion. So that is a course. It's a twofold thing. One, it's an actual state, right? I look at it as a place that we want to strive to get to, is a place where we will start to unconsciously include. Because right now we unconsciously exclude.
Yeah.
That's the state.
I
that
was
we're in.
wondering. Yeah, I'm glad you're unboxing this. Literally unboxing this.
And so based on that, I thought, I really want to create something that's going to help us get there. And I was like, how do we do that?
Yeah.
And I got to admit, I was struggling because I was like, okay, I do this work. I do workshops. I'm doing these education sessions. I'm doing trainings. And I got to tell you, I hate the word training because I always tell people, like, training is for puppies in the military. So like,
I love that.
I'm like, I don't want to be trained. I want to be educated.
Right. I love it.
And so I went to a friend of mine who is a neuroscientist. And I said, Kendall, help me. I want to help people create new habits. And so she gave me her sciencey nerdy thing and she goes, well, actually, Stacey, we can't really do that, but here's what we can do instead. And I was like, because she spent like an hour literally explaining how habits work, what we have to do, well, the prompts.
Why
and I
can't
was
we
like,
just put a chip in someone's brain? I don't understand. That would be great. I mean, we can figure out that.
I was like, okay, I got you. I hear what you're saying. So then I was like, but I'm not taking no for an answer. So
Yep.
what's the next best thing? So what we've created using a lot of different sort of adult learning theory and scientific brain methods, whatever, right? Put together all the content that I know about unconscious bias and dropped it into a course that uses all these different prompts that are helping people to retain the information and actually make it actionable. So now when I talk about awareness, alignment, action, advocacy, I'm like, well, I can help with awareness and I can help with alignment, but I can't make you do the action. But in this course, we've gotten as close as we can.
Yeah.
Where we're providing people with the information that they need. We're giving people small bite size. And that is where I did learn from LinkedIn Learning, right? It's like, people like short.
Yeah, they do.
People want something that's quick.
Yeah.
And it's also better for learning. But what we don't want is just you watch a video and then you go away.
Yeah.
Because then you're still not really taking it in.
You're not retaining it.
And you're not applying it. You actually have to apply it. So we decided to look at bike riding as the example. And I always tell people, I say, how many people learn to ride a bike by going on Amazon and buying a book about it? Like, nobody in the history of bike riding has ever read a book about how to ride a bike and then got on a bike
And did it easy.
Yeah.
right? That's not how it happens. In order to ride a bike, you've got to get on, you got to practice, you got to fall down, you got to skin a knee, you have to get really frustrated, throw a few
Training
curse words
wheels,
out.
whatever it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Gotta
then-
get hurt in the process. Yeah.
And so the same is true with education if we want to apply it. So we seem to be in this place where we just think we're automatically going to be, I'm just going to be inclusive because I want to be.
Yeah.
That's not how it works. As I said, we are automatically ingrained to exclude. So if we want to include, we have to work at it. So that means we've got to get on the bike and we got to ride.
Yeah.
So we've created this course to be able to do that, to give people really small, bite-sized, practical application where it's like, go do this thing, go try that, go. And we've put in a lot of different content to help with, like I said, adult learning styles and all of that. So it's really exciting.
That is really
because-
exciting. You're giving, because sometimes people don't know what to do. It's
Right, they
like
have
you said,
no idea.
So it's like you're giving them the tools. Go try this. It's like A/B testing yourself or your organization or
Right.
whatever it is. I think that's brilliant.
Yeah. So
Wow, that's coming out.
it's out.
Oh, it is out, so you can-
and people have started using it.
Okay.
I believe that's what the QR code is on there.
Oh, is that what
forgot.
that is? Okay.
But
It's
Find
a
out.
course. It's a
It's a
course.
course.
It's a course.
LinkedIn
And
On
I think
LinkedIn Learning?
It's not on LinkedIn Learning. It's on
Okay.
my
Yours, okay.
website.
So rework.com.
Yes, reworkwork.com.
Rework. That's
And
right.
It's called Unconscious Inclusion. And then again, this is why I love getting out and meeting people in person. This is why I was excited when you called me about this. I was like, yes, let's do it in person. Because I've done so many virtual podcasts.
Yeah.
But I was at this conference. I'm walking through a networking event and I hear someone go, Stacey, I know you. Wait, I know you. And they're like, we're in your unconscious inclusion course. And these two women walk up to me. They're like, we're in your course. And they're like, we love it. It's so great. And so they gave me a video testimonial on the spot.
Oh, that's fantastic.
So cool.
So I was like, oh my God, this is so great. Like just randomly bump into these two people and they were just raving about it. So
Yeah, that's the power of the human connection. You get to
need
see
that,
the human
yeah.
side, humanize you, right? You're the author. You're leading people towards a better way of doing things and a better way of thinking. And then they meet you in person, and,
And it's like,
boom, slams it home. That's, I love that.
No. We were just talking about that last night. Like that, you can't replicate all that stuff online. It's about coming together, feeling it, and breathing it, and getting it, and just walking away and doing something different and feeling fabulous about it. And that connection, you can't replace it online. You just can't. Some of those, you can't.
you can't replace it, but I do think we can use the online to prolong.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. Keep it going.
And keep it going.
Yeah.
And I think that's the piece where if we go back to that remote work conversation, that's the piece that people are forgetting. Because, if you make the argument that you can't replace in-person connection, then people go, well, this is why we don't want remote work.
No,
you need to come into the
no,
office.
no.
And it's like, no.
Yeah,
That's not what
you
I
need
said,
a starter. That's not
actually.
what you need. A starter of that connection, right? And it's like, and you sometimes need to get a piece of that in person, but it doesn't have to be 100%.
Right. And there's ways to continue it. There's ways to think outside the
Yeah.
box. And I think too many managers now are just like, I don't want to do it because it's too much work for them. Because, oh, well, guess what? You have to learn to manage a different way. Well, guess what? You weren't managing that well in the other way, so it doesn't matter.
Time to make that shift. Yeah.
totally.
Wow. That's great.
Well, thank you. We're
Thank you
looking
so
forward
much.
to watching the course, and of course, buy the book.
Yeah.
This is the way of the world
Yep,
these
yep.
days. And one of the things that we love to
Mhm.
do, because we're here elevating and celebrating you, we want to elevate and celebrate other women
folks, yeah.
along this journey. And so, if you have anybody top of mind
Yeah.
that you'd like to elevate in this moment, just someone that inspires you or
Yeah.
motivates you or works alongside you and is a powerhouse, anybody,
Whatever.
just feel free.
Can I do more than one person?
Yeah.
I know. See, this happens every
Everyone
time.
asks
Everybody
that.
answering.
It's so
And they're like, nope, I'm not choosing one.
Sky's the limit. We want to hear about all the best.
Okay, yeah. Do as many as you can. Go for it.
I thought of one person, then I was like, wait, but there's another person. If I don't say her name, she's
It's
gonna be
gonna
like,
mm.
how come you did it? Right? So I will say, so one of the people is Delay Thatch. She has worked with me for many years. She's an HR consultant. And so we partner a lot of times. And she's one of the people that actually helped me when I was still kind of working a job on the side of my business. And I was tired, doing all of this stuff. And she said, Stacey, stop giving those people 100% of your time. She's like, they don't pay you enough for it.
That's right. That's right.
And she was like, and your 70% on a good day is still better than most people's.
100%.
Right.
Yeah.
So
that's
she
true.
was just like, stop
Stop.
killing yourself.
Yeah.
And ever since then, I was like, she is right. I don't need to be doing this.
Mm-mm.
And nobody even noticed, right? When I stopped putting in all that extra work that I
yeah.
was doing because I had been doing so much.
Yeah.
It didn't even make a difference. The only difference it made was to my mental health.
Right.
Yeah.
And it just made it so that I had more of me to give in the other areas that I actually wanted to put it, put that space into. So I would say she's definitely somebody who is really great because she actually just released her book called The Diversity Dilemma.
Ooh.
And so the other person is Samara Bay.
Mm.
So she has a book out called Permission to Speak.
Ooh.
And talks a lot about just women in the workplace and the fact that half the time, the play on having permission to speak, right? So
Right.
I'm sure she would do a way better job of explaining what she does than I will, but I would say she's another awesome
All right.
person.
We're adding all these to the
Okay.
list.
We're coming for them.
Yeah,
They're
yeah.
going to get an invite to come on the
Yeah.
podcast. So, but yeah, thank you for being a part of this with us and sharing everything with the audience with today. It's been a really fun time getting to hear your journey.
And thank you so much for, again, flying, literally. You earned your wings, coming here and supporting us on what our mission is, and then aligning so we can elevate you and all the beautiful work that you do. You are changing lives. Your mission is just, we need everybody to get on board. It's
Changing
how we-
corporate
yeah,
culture,
exactly.
one company at
at
a
time. But we're rooting for you. We're cheering
Keep
you on.
fighting the
Whatever you
good
need.
fight.
Yes, we got you. All right.
Thank you. I'm so excited to have been here. So thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right. Till next time, that's a wrap.
Bye. Biggest gratitude to thank those that are behind the scenes. Alex Sully, our creative director and producer. Becky Davis, our talented director of photography. Kristen West, our brilliant brand and design expert. And of course, thanks to all of you for making our vision of Humanize Her come to life.